All right, we're back. As you can imagine, there is some internet issues tonight. The rain doesn't help. So I'm not going to focus on this anymore because Pastor Nara, you're just going to let me know if some questions pop up, right? Cool. Okay, so back to the episode. Do you believe that dolls can get possessed or puppets actually come alive and it's more than just the person who is pulling the strings? Well, I used to think it was just tales to scare me not to play with my dolls and puppets so much so that I can focus on school and textbooks and stuff. I used to kind of think that. But then you hear stories, and then, like I said earlier, movies are made on dolls coming alive, wicked, evil dolls coming alive. Then, as I was learning more when I filmed The Paranormal Zone, and even when I was a child, I would see people take trance of certain deities or certain beings that the eye can't see, and they take trance and they cut themselves and stuff like that, and then when they come out of trance, nothing is wrong, and where they cut themselves doesn't even have a scar or anything like that. So it makes you kind of wonder at sometimes whether these things are real, and whether dolls do get possessed by spirits. Personally, I think it's real, and I think it does happen. If a spirit can possess a human being, or if, let's say, for example, on a more holy thing, if a holy person can take trance of a deity, why can't an energy enter and take control of a doll, especially when the doll is just lying there like that? Maybe not like that, but just lying there without a soul, without a mind, without anything. It's full control for the spirit. So because of that, many people have taken advantage of this fact and used dolls and invoked them with energy or spirits or demonic energies with evil spells. Hence, you have many stories that you've heard, or maybe your own personal experience with black magic. You know, sometimes even though we watch it in a movie and you see voodoo dolls and you see dolls being pricked by needles and then the person is all la la la, it happens. I have myself witnessed and filmed with somebody, interviewed someone whom was a victim of very, very cruel black magic, and it was very real, and her scars were all there. Physical scars, emotional scars, and mental scars. Okay, so when I filmed this episode, I gave a history of one of this very popular doll game called Jalangong. And it had origins coming from China all the way. And in fact, when Jalangong was first introduced into the culture, it was meant to encourage children to study mathematics, and that the way in which the two crosses that forms the Jalangong doll's body is actually mathematically symmetrical. Okay, so it was originally meant to be for that purpose, and so from there, then of course people realized that something more can come out of this, and that's when you had people playing with spirits using the Jalangong as a vehicle for the spirit to come in so that they can ask the spirit stuff and things like that. So in this episode, you see that, to make it very efficient, I went to the cemetery to do the ritual, the Jalangong ritual. Basically, if they needed a spirit, I figured the cemetery would have quite a selection of guests, right? So, yeah, I'm not mocking. It's true. I mean, I have only a few hours to get the footage, so I thought it would be most efficient if we did the Jalangong ritual at a cemetery. And so it's a very respectful ritual in a sense that, as you can see, you make offerings to invite the spirit. You have, they burn the incense, and then they have a little chant. I can't remember it right now. But basically the chant says that we're having a festival, or we're having a gathering, please come, please come. And then of course it also ends by saying when it's time to go, go. Okay. So when the ritual first started, I wasn't involved. Normally I try not to dominate the situation. I try really hard not to dominate a situation, because that is a very natural thing that I do. But anyway, so as a host, I thought to observe, and then I got really curious, because like I said earlier, there is always a certain level of skepticism that I have when I do all my episodes, and I think that some skepticism. It is necessary to have that certain balance of being reasonable, logical, and ask questions, relevant questions, or necessary questions. So in my skepticism and honestly curiosity, I wanted to feel it, and then I'm also suspicious, and so I thought maybe the two ritual. Okay, so anyways, Pastor Nera was doing this to me just as I was talking about the movie Jalangkong, so I thought maybe he was having a movement of his own. But anyways, back to where I was. So anyways, skepticism, suspicious nature, I thought that maybe there was some foul play, and that the two ritual masters would have their hands at the bottom of the basket and move it around, because then it looks real, and then the doll starts doing its thing, right? So after the first spirit, I guess, came and left, then the Jalangkong kind of toppled over. So I wanted to try it. I was curious and also suspicious. So I put my hands at the bottom, and I chanted that the chant to invite the spirit and things like that. And you saw. If you didn't see, then go see it later. So anyway, so my hand was, and then when my hand was at the bottom of the basket where the Jalangkong doll was sitting, I could feel the hands of the other two ritual masters as well, and they were actually very, very. No, there was no foul play. Their hands were apart. Their hands didn't touch each other even. They were just on the basket. So, and then my hands were also there, and then I made sure that their hands didn't touch, and then I made sure that my hands could feel their hands, so that if they were manipulating the basket, I would feel it, right? Okay, so then what happened was my hands were there, and it started to move, in a sense that the weight on the basket started to shift back and forth, and as I was excited that something was happening, I also needed to make sure it wasn't being manipulated. So I was sounds so weird. I was feeling these two guys' hands. For a moment there, it went from paranormal to porn. Anyway, so I was feeling the two guys' hands, and to make sure they weren't manipulating the basket, or even like manipulating my hand to manipulate the basket. So their hands were just firmly holding the basket. I mean, there is a difference when you hold a basket versus manipulate a basket, right? So anyways, their hands were very steady and holding the basket, and they didn't have any pressure on their fingers like trying to control the basket. So from that angle, I was kind of convinced, okay, things are really happening, okay, and what you see may not be real, and what is real you may not see, so it's really happening. Then I started to focus on the whole spirit coming and possessing the Jalangkong doll after I killed my suspicion. So it was amazing because I could feel the basket move, and my hand was also neutral, just supporting the basket. And in the past, they would tell you that the spirit could come and write answers to your medical conditions, or write answers to questions that you may have. Unfortunately, what was drawn, I wouldn't say written because it wasn't letters or alphabet, but I would say that what was drawn wasn't very clear. The first drawing, to them it looked like a year, but to me it kind of just looked like a kid learning to draw, and it was just all over the place. So when I was convinced that the spirit had come and taken over the Jalangkong doll, I just said, I just wanted to make sure that it was there, it could hear, it could understand me, it could do what I want without being too complicated. Like, oh, could you draw me, Picasso or something? It would be just too much, right? So I just said a straight line, and literally it was a straight line. Okay, and then I was convinced. So that was my experience with Jalangkong and puppets and dolls and spirits. So if you ask me, oh, is it true? Are you sure? Are you sure? Are you sure? Yes, I'm sure. I felt it, I saw it, I experienced it, and therefore I'm sure. So it makes me kind of think of people who keep dolls. And in my 4 seasons of the show, I have gone to places that I had my reasons to doubt what's the word, sacredness of it. And I have personally experienced some places that I've been that has a very cold, eerie kind of negative energy about it. And in some of these places I've been to, they have dolls. And I'm not talking about holy statues or Buddha statues. I'm talking, dolls that look kind of funny, And normally my experience so far is every time there is a very uneasy experience or an uneasy feeling, normally there's a doll in the environment. So it's interesting. Well, I guess it's efficient as well. I mean, if you're going to be okay, I just went to somewhere else. Okay, I need to go to, hold on. So I guess if you are a person who is interested to possess a doll and you want to invoke it with negative spirits and you want to be some Bomo master, then yes, I would imagine a doll is kind of a practical vehicle because it has no soul, no mind, nothing, and you can just literally put anything you want in it and it comes to life and does your evils. But remember, no matter how great a doll can be possessed, and no matter how you, okay, and all right, and no matter how you would like to engage in these kind of magic or practices or rituals to gain what you want, is not the right way. It may seem efficient, and the person who does the spell or magic will probably promise you the world. But there's always something they say, no pain, no gain. So no hard work, you don't get what you want. And most of all, there's karma. So you might say, what karma is there? The doll has no life, no soul, no nothing, no past life, nothing. True. The doll doesn't have a past life because it's a doll. But the motivation to invoke a spirit using just the doll as a vehicle in itself has karma. Okay, so if you're going to be liking or curious about such practices or looking into doing those things to get what you want and may your dreams all come true, just remember there's karma. And if your dreams do come true, just remember it's time limited, so you won't have it for long. So stuff like that. So bear in mind, no pain, no gain. So if you want something, enough, work for it. Okay, don't get no Bomo master, no voodoo master, and get no dolly and jab it with needles and invoke it with spirits. It's just too time consuming. And by the way, it's probably expensive too. So if you have that kind of money to spend to get your wishes come true and your dreams come true, you should spend it on educating yourself. Okay, that's your mama talking. All right, do we have any questions?
We have one
We have
from Bradley.
Bradley.
Yep.
Bradley, how are you? Other than dolls, what about... Bradley's question is, other than dolls, what about action figures? Just because it looks like Iron Man and it's an action figure doesn't change that it's a doll. It's a doll. I could put Barbie doll in a Wonder Woman outfit. She becomes an action figure, right? So it's a doll. So, be careful. Superman might just come alive and beat up Iron Man. So yes, even if it's an action figure, it still can get possessed because it's just a doll. Talk about attachments.
So you use them to hide the fact that you're doing something with a doll. It's used very commonly in voodoo practices.
That you're hiding the fact you're doing something, so you use a doll.
No, you use an action figure.
Oh. Pastor Naral just shared that sometimes they use an action figure as the vehicle for the spell as opposed to a doll is to hide the fact that they're doing magic. It's because it's an action figure, so woo, it should be heroic, but actually it's just a voodoo doll. Okay. Sorry. Stop making me laugh. This is a serious show, okay? It's a paranormal show. Not supposed to laugh. It's not funny. Nobody seems to want to ask me any questions. Oh my God, I look so bad in my glasses. I'm just looking at myself right now. How scary is that? Jalan Kong Jalan Marilah. That's right. That was the chant. Jasvin Ng. That was the chant. Jalan Kong Jalan Si Marilah ke sini. Di sini ada pesta. Pestanya kecil-kecilan. Datang tidak dijemput. Pergi tidak dihantar. That's right. So, what else can I host tonight? So, if JP was here, what would JP ask?
Did you feel anything during the ritual?
Yes, I did. In addition to two men's hands, I felt the spirit.
What did it feel like to
you? Let me see. After I overcame and got the answers of my suspicion and my, not trusting people, when, like I told you, right, they burnt incense and they did the chant, and then it was in the evening, it was at night, of course, so it was obviously cooler, but if I recall, when the Jalangkong doll started to move and I made sure it wasn't manipulated by a human, and then I was focusing and trying to see what the spirit would draw, and I said, okay, a straight line will be fine because then, it confirms the connection. But there was a change in environment scent. It was, obviously the incense was still burning, but there was for a moment, maybe for the moment when the spirit came and the doll started moving, there was a change in the scent, in the sense that it wasn't so much incense, but there was a moment where the scent of a flower, a very strong flower fragrant, just oh, that's a frog. Look, there's a frog in here.
Oh.
And there was a very, for a moment, a change in the scent. There was the incense as well, but then there was this whiff of flower for that moment. It didn't stay for long, And So that's when I kind of like, sometimes I logically confirm the presence of a spirit, but then there's also the other senses that you feel to confirm the presence of spirits. There was the scent, change of scent, which I could recall. And then there was for me, I think there was, of course, the touch of the spirit moving. And there were, in this particular one, these were the two senses that I had, smell and touch. In other previous episodes, I have had temperature change, in the sense that it does get suddenly a little bit chilly. And so when people say, oh, I got goosebumps when I talk about ghost stories, I get goosebumps when I have a funny feeling. It's true. The goosebumps is a result of certain, when the presence of spirits exists or come into your space, the temperature does drop a little. It does drop, and then that's why you have your goosebumps, other than your own self-imagination and excitement lah. Okay. What was my scariest paranormal experience? Waking up in the morning and looking myself in the mirror. What does the flower scent mean, a Pontianak? Thank you, Pastor David, for that very meaningful question. I don't know whether the flower meant a Pontianak was there, but from my experience, and I've also had many people tell me the same, that when they go to a place that has spirit presence, there is normally this strong scent of a flower, and many people say it's jasmine, but I don't know. I like the smell of jasmine, so I didn't relate it. So it's distinctly different than what, like, you're walking through and you come to a path or a house or a haunted place that has a spirit. It is is the word momentous? It's a momentary thing, and it's just one strong whiff. And I relate it to a flower. I can't tell you which flower. I can't say it's a rose or anything like that, and not at all. And so there is normally a change in smell that tells you there is a change in guest in the house, so to speak. And normally for me, my experience so far is a whiff of a very strong flower scent. Jasmine or frangipani. I've heard that it's jasmine, yeah. So no, Pastor David, is not a Pontianak.
There's some questions about that.
About Pontianaks?
No.
There are many questions now. Okay, hold on. Okay, so Suri Kataya was saying that when I was young, the head popping doll haunted me. That's how it felt that my parents chopped the wooden doll. I had a fever, and it could be the influence of the fever, but it felt real. My family banned all dolls and human form toys since then. So it was a good thing that your family did ban that, because now you know, and I know, that dolls can get possessed by spirits. Did any of the spirits invoked follow any of your crew or you home to the hotel? No. Nothing followed me home. I bet you a lot of you are like, yeah, should follow her home, possess her, disturb her. Don't be so mean. No. Yeah, this is quite a common question. In our years, we've never had a spirit follow us back. It's because of practices that we do, rituals, not rituals, practice. Before I embarked on hosting this TV program, Rinpoche had given me a practice, which is Singdoma and Dorje Shukden. And because I'm a real simpleton, too many prayers would just make me not pray. Rinpoche always kept my life very simple, and I always just practiced Dorje Shukden. So we would always start a daily prayer before we leave the hotels or wherever we were before we go to locations, or even start the first interview before the start of the day. And we recite a very short Dorje Shukden prayer with mantra. And as for me, being the host of the show, it's kind of like the leader of the crew, so to speak. Although the director is the leader, the producer is the leader, but in terms of the spiritual aspect and the practice of Dorje Shukden, among the crew, I would be considered the most senior in the Dorje Shukden practice. There have been times where I remember this one. It was in Singapore, and we had gone to a reservoir park. Yes, I can't name which one, where it was known that someone had been killed there. And this was many, many years ago, of course. And there was a jinn that was in a tree, that lived in a tree, that seems to know what happened. So together with a master that I met, whom I met in Singapore, we went and we tried to talk to the jinn. The jinn had other friends as well at the tree. Maybe I had, disturbed the party or something. And the jinn didn't want to answer some of the questions I had asked. And the jinn told the master, who can hear better, because probably his senses were sharper than mine and his portals was open to this jinn because of whatever previous connection. And the jinn said they didn't want to answer the questions because they wanted it to just lie and let that story lie and not be revived again, which I respected. But that particular night, because of other spirits present, there was one that I felt was a little bit mischievous. My experience was a little bit mischievous. And so when I asked the master, I said, are there other spirits present that is a bit mischievous? And he said, yes, there is. I said, okay. So anyway, so he said a prayer for them to ask them not to disturb and stay by the tree and continue what they were doing and don't follow us. And for me, basically what I did was I recited the mantra of Traksay, which is the wrathful emanation of Dorje Shukden. And I recited it 21 times. Basically, I waited for my entire crew to pack up and leave the scene and be in the cars. And on the exit, I turned my back, I turned around and I looked at the tree and I said, you will not follow us. You will remain here and continue what you are doing. And please do not try anything, because none of us were here to create any problems, but simply to do the show to provide information and not to disturb. And then I recited Traksay mantra 21 times, and then I put my hand out this way. I recited it with a very firm mind and quite a fierce tone. And then I turned my back. I didn't run. I wanted to, but I didn't run. I walked very, as Pastor Nara said, I walked very quickly and firmly towards the car, closed the door, and then we left. So there were 2 times that I experienced, another, one was in Singapore, and I think the other one was in, I think Jakarta as well, where I experienced something mischievous that may have wanted to, pop into my bag and go home and to the hotel with us and stuff. What? What are you... JP would ask what was my scariest experience, and my answer would be looking at myself first thing in the morning in the mirror. Dang, dang, dang. My scariest experience. I guess it would be, if you go on YouTube, you would watch it. Season 1, first episode, the pilot episode, the first time I was filming. And it was, that episode was about 鬼仔, child spirit, how they invoke a child spirit, a spirit into a fetus, aborted fetus or a dead fetus extracted. So that was a bit scary for me because it was my first time. So yeah, so that episode is available on YouTube. How do they get rid of the spirit in the doll, or does it stay there forever like Annabelle? Okay, so in terms of this particular episode that I did, the chant, in the chant, it is already an understanding that the spirit would come, invited, and leave when told to. Even without being told to, they would leave. That means in the chant, in the chant to invite the spirit to take over the Jalangkung doll, it's already stated clearly it's an temporary invitation. So it wouldn't stay. Okay? It wouldn't stay. So based on what I've learned as well in asking different masters as I have traveled all over Southeast Asia shooting the paranormal zone, normally a spirit from a doll is used for black magic. And normally, you think it's only for fun, right, Pastor Noral? He's like, no, not always black magic. But anyways, maybe because I covered quite a bit of black magic as well, so maybe, and I saw dolls, so, and my experience with dolls has always been a bit, creepy. So, like in Jalangkong's case, it's actually a game. It started as a game. So, and in this case, the chanting was an invitation that was temporary with an understanding that you will come and you will go. Okay? So from what I have learned is if a spirit is invoked and possessing a doll, the same spirit is removed by the master, the evil master or whichever master, has to be removed by the same master, in, out, same place. But I also know of a Sifu, Sifu is a master as well in Chinese, that he is able to help remove such spirits even though he wasn't the one who put the spirit in, simply because he understands how these spells are cooked. And so he, with his many, many decades of experience, has an antidote to uncook it or to get the spirit out and send the spirit to a better place. Because when you call on a spirit to possess anything, may it be a doll, an action figure, a cat, a dog, a human, or whatever, you are disturbing the spirit. And sometimes you provoke it, and the spirit can remain for a long time, and it might take more than one master to ask them to go. And then you are probably in quite deep trouble when you get one of those fiery, malicious, and angry spirits. Okay, you don't exactly get to choose the spirit you call because they don't exactly have a catalog for you and say, oh, I would like this one, so Cinderella energy to possess Barbie doll. No, it doesn't work that way. Once you open this portal and you do the calling, it's like open house, and sometimes you don't know who's coming, and it may not be what you want. So I always say, just stay away from this kind of practice because it's just not worth it. Would you like to add anything to that, Pastor Nurul? How to detox a spirited doll?
Oh, in Buddhism, we have ways of doing it. The rituals basically call upon the energies of the enlightened beings. So you don't have to do anything energetic yourself. You might have to repeat this. But you call upon the energies of the enlightened being, and the Buddha basically does it for you.
Yeah. So Pastor Nero was just saying that in Buddhism, sometimes you need to be a practitioner, of course. You need to be a practitioner and have your own prayers and your practice, and you hold your practice dearly and you have faith in your practice completely. You are able to recite the prayers of the Buddhas, and sometimes simply by doing that, you call on the energies of the Buddhas, and in doing that, the Buddhas can lift the spirit and then guide them to what we commonly know as the light. Okay, so that's also one way. But it's not like, didn't practice your whole entire life, don't know who's Buddha, and then suddenly, yo, Buddha, what's up? Can you just get this spirit out of the doll, please? It doesn't work that way, lah. That one, if you have no practice or any religious practice that you have, then you might want to send the doll somewhere else where they can do it. Am I missing anything? Chung, you're scaring me now. I've got 3 12-foot tall, like blooming jasmine trees. Chung, just because you have jasmine trees in your garden, it doesn't mean that the spirits will come. It doesn't work that way. If it works that way, then all jasmine trees will be removed or grown in plentiful abundance. No, it doesn't work that way. No worries. Chung, enjoy your jasmine trees, okay? Frangipanis, commonly planted cemeteries, it may be hence psychological. Yes, possibly, yes, I agree. All right. Can spirit understand all languages? If not, how they understand your request not to follow you back in case the spirit don't speak English at all? Okay, good question. I actually had this question before. I used to think when we filmed in Taiwan, I needed to speak Mandarin, and then when in Indonesia, speak more Malay, etc., right? And then I was thinking to myself, if the spirit and the ghosts all start charging and the Pontianaks wake up and the action figures all go ballistic, I will probably go into a state of panic and just start speaking in English, because I wouldn't be able to possibly in my panic not even know what country I'm in to even consider choosing the language I was going to speak. But the thing is, I found out that spirits are very, very diverse and talented, and they understand any language. Similarly, in the ghost realm, there's also no religion. I'm kind of told that there is, no specific religion. Just because somebody who was a Buddhist passed away doesn't mean that if they should reincarnate as a spirit, they will be a Buddhist spirit. It doesn't work that way. So there is no, in the spirit realm, there's no race, religion, language discrimination. Okay, so I learned that it's the motivation and the sincerity more than the language. So if your motivation is evil, any language you can call on them, and then the evil spirits will come and help you. And if you are calling for help and you need help, and your motivation is to help yourself or even help others, and you're sincere, then when you have a prayer in whatever language, the right deity or Buddha will help. Okay? So yes, there's no language barriers with spirits. They are friends. Chong, you are just too funny, Chong. Any more funny, cannot tahan, okay? They are friends. Yeah, Chong will translate for you. Anybody speaking to foreign spirits and you feel the spirit is not understanding you, please call Chong. Okay. Yeah, so to answer your question, Kirsten, why do spirits understand all languages? I guess my understanding is there is actually no language discrimination in the spirit world, I guess. And so it is, like I said earlier, about your motivation and your sincerity. So if it's not your language, like the Buddhas will understand you regardless of your language, choice of language, or your mother tongue. They understand you because of the sincerity and the motivation. Similarly, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that spirits are like Buddhas, but the unseen beings are the same. There are spirits that have clairvoyance. That's why sometimes people go to haunted houses, slaughter a few chickens, and then they ask for 4D numbers, and they actually get it, and they actually even win. The number comes out, the winning numbers, so that you keep on going back. It's a way of the spirit luring you and making you their fan and loyal fan. They keep giving you things, and then after a while, it's time for you to pay back. Okay, so that's the scary part. So like I always say, don't start it if you can't afford it, because when they retaliate or when they start to ask back, the price is normally very heavy, and it's more than just dollars and cents. Yeah, so yeah, so there's no shall I say language barriers with when summoning the spirits. I think you guys should focus more on communicating your sincerity and motivation with your with your religion, with Buddha, with Dorje Shugden, and not so much focus on how to talk to spirits. Because when they talk back, you're going to freak out. When they talk back, you just remember Dorje Shugden, Om Benza Wiki Pitana Soha. Okay? Don't even think, okay, what language should I use? Psh, psh. All right, what are we doing on time? We have 5 more minutes. Okay. Looking at the questions, I don't even know whether everyone here actually watched the episode that we loaded on Monday. Looking at the questions.
Out of your whole history of doing the show, what is the scariest object you've come across? Like a doll or I don't know, a rock? What is the scariest thing that gave you the most creepy reaction?
Oh, okay. It was the episode that I did on black magic, which I think I've shared with you before. And it was the scariest for me because I only heard about it. I only heard aunties, uncles talking about it, so that I don't mess around with black magic and stuff like that. But to actually see it and to actually sit beside someone and talk to her after being a victim of black magic for the longest time, and seeing the nails and all the needles and stuff that came out of her body that the doctors extracted. A nail is just a nail, right? We use it to put things together. But looking at those nails during that episode, filming that episode, was the scariest thing. It was creepy. It was so creepy because that object was a result of cruel jealousy from her, from her ex-husband who didn't want her to be happy. Cruel, inhumane motivation, filled with spells that when you just look at that nail, right, I could feel that feeling that just goes down your spine. It just makes literally your skin crawl, and to see big nails, small nails, rusty nails. They weren't nails that you see at construction sites and stuff like that. These were nails of evil. They were just symbolic of evil, of how evil a person can be, to harm another person like that. And that man didn't even have the eep, the to go and say, you know what, I'm not saying that men should hit women, but he didn't even have the to go and face his wife and say that blah 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 blah, and then just shout at her, scream at her, and just vent it all out and let it go, right? And he didn't even have the for that. He actually used black magic to torture her for about many years, more than 2 years. And in total, I think all in all, maybe 4 over years, I think. It was a very long time she was suffering. And to remove the spell completely and have her body not regenerate all these black magic nails, it was 2,000 over nails they actually took out of her body. She was scarred everywhere. The physical scar was painful enough to see, but to listen to her and how through reciting the Ruqya, her religion being Muslim, she healed herself together with her ustad and also the doctor. Yeah, so she was very lucky to eventually meet a doctor, Western medicine doctor, who believed that there were things that medicine cannot answer. Okay, so yeah. Before we end, are there any more questions? What?
From Sharon.
What are some of the items you always bring with you for protection? Other than my bad attitude? No, just kidding. Joke. What do I know? Okay. I have before I even started filming my first episode of my first season, Rinpoche gave me my little care pack. Okay, it's basically a Ziploc bag, a really hard plastic Ziploc bag, because I have fallen into water before. I've fallen down a slope before. So Rinpoche gave me this Ziploc bag that was like waterproof and dirt proof. So inside is blessed rice, blessed string, and a Dorje Shukden chakra. I do believe there was, obviously, Rinpoche had blessed these items for me to carry on my body when I'm filming. And on top of that, Rinpoche recorded an audio prayer, which I will, as my ritual, I will always play when we arrive at a location. I will play this recording. It's an audio recording that Rinpoche recorded for me to carry, and it tells the unseen friends and the beings there of our purpose, and to not disturb us, and that we have come to learn and film the show to educate others about the paranormal and supernatural. And then in that audio also Rinpoche says a prayer, and the prayer is for them to find some peace. So very practical. San Rinpoche is a very, very practical guru. I didn't need to carry a statue on my head whatsoever. It was very, very practical. So yeah, that's what I take with me at all times during my entire 4 seasons of filming. I think that's it, right? Any more questions I missed? Is it from the top? Is it from the bottom?
No more questions.
Okay, so wait. We would like to, on behalf of JP and also myself, we would like to thank our sponsor this evening, who would like to remain anonymous, and the dedication is: may sentient beings from all realms be liberated from their suffering and find lasting inner peace and happiness. So, I don't know. How does JP normally would thank the guest? So, I'm JP. Thank you, Li Kim, for being with us tonight. And I'm Li Kim. And yeah, I'm schizophrenic. And I thank I do actually thank JP for inviting me to chat with you guys tonight. It's unfortunate that he had to attend to something urgent and can't be with us, especially when tonight was going to be the last episode or last show for the Thursday Paranormal Tales, which I think JP started during the MCO, correct? So it's been a few months already. Anyways, you never know. This could be a gimmick whereby we are like, oh, JP wasn't here, so he didn't say goodbye, and so we continue with this. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe this is JP's creative marketing. Anyways. In case that is the case, I'll let JP tell you that. But as long as I'm concerned tonight, it has been a pleasure to host this evening. And Jacinta, hope there'll be more stories from the channel in future. Yes, we can look into that always. In terms of the Thursday Paranormal Tales series, tonight would be the last show, as JP indicated last week. It has been a pleasure for me to be here. I would have had more fun with JP. I've known JP for a very, very long time.